What's going on, everyone? It's Destroy here with Astro DFS, bringing you the breakdown of the running backs this week. Like always, guys, these picks are just a preference, and they are not injury based. Um, Most of that decisions come down to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like any smart person would do. So this is just a Tuesday look, or Wednesday look at running backs. Um, Injuries to wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, and injuries on the defenses adjust likes and dislikes to running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends. Injuries just basically can change a whole game plan offensively or defensively and opens up players that you might not normally take. So, with that being said, let's get into the running backs. So this week we have three running backs, 8K or more. Ezekiel Elliott, 8,500. Believe that is a drop down. No, guess going a little higher. Was 83 against Green Bay. 8,500, I think, is a pretty good price for him this week. He's playing a Jets defense. It's probably better on the pass than they are the rush. They allow a lot of receiving yards and receptions to running backs, almost more than they do rushing yards. They don't give up a lot of touchdowns to running backs, though, so that's my concern. But regardless of what people say about Dallas playing actual teams, I think with Michael Gallup in that offense looks a lot better than without him. And we've never seen a fully healthy Michael Gallup in that offense with a full workload Ezekiel Elliott. Week 1, Elliott was just coming back, didn't look good. Week 2, Gallup got hurt. Last week, Gallup was coming back from injury. He's not going to be 100%. No, I don't think any player really ever is, but he's healthy. So they're playing a Jets team with Sam Darnold back, so this could be a really competitive game. We could honestly see Ezekiel Elliott get a heavy workload here against the Jets. So I'm not too high on him yet, but I'm not too low on him either. Just depends. Gotta look at that defense. See what everyone's saying about the Jets offense and how they look with Darnold finally back, even though he got first team reps in all last week. So the most expensive running back. Yeah, I like him way more than I do Dalvin Cook. Now, don't get me wrong, Philly's defense is not elite. Their pass defense is terrible, but something that is good is their rush defense. They're a top 10 rush defense in the league, and they don't give up a lot of touchdowns to running backs either, more than the Jets. But the pass is probably what's going to hurt Philly more this week, especially with Kirk Cousins coming off that really good week last week. I figured Minnesota's probably going to pass a little more than they have all season and try to unleash Kirk Cousins and build his confidence up against a terrible Philly defensive back. So I'd probably in this for $100 go Zeke right now, then Dalvin Cook. Kamara playing against Jacksonville. Jacksonville, in my opinion, has a really good defense. Jalen Ramsey might practice. Like I said, when Jalen Ramsey's in that defense and that defense is clicking, they're a scary defense. They're not the best against the run, though. Teddy Bridgewater is improving as a quarterback in that Saints offense, building chemistry with Michael Thomas, who you need to build chemistry with, and also balancing with Kamara. Kamara has not been one of the key points of that offense lately. Week 3, he had that great game, but that's pretty much been it. Has yet to exceed 100 rushing yards this year or passing yards. He's had some pretty balanced games. He's had some touchdowns. This week, I think he gets a heavy workload just because they're playing a better Jacksonville passing defense and rushing defense. So definitely liking Kamara here at 8,000. Probably right now my favorite 8K or above running back. So definitely interest there right now. David Johnson, questionable. I'm not picking anybody. Freeman, Smith, Johnson, or Edmonds. So if any of them come up, we're just not going to really address it for the most part because both defenses for the rush is pretty good. Passing wise, not good. Rush, pretty good. I think both of them are top 15, and they don't give up a lot of rushing touchdowns either. So I expect a passing game more than a run game, and especially with David Johnson hurt, I really don't trust Edmonds that much against Atlanta. Nick Chubb playing against Seattle, I think, is a really good matchup for Nick Chubb. I've said it all year, and I'm going to continue to say it, and his price is reflecting it. This is the first time he's been above 7K this season. Highest he got was 6,900. Had a bad week, dropped down to 64. And then that game against San Fran, you can't really even say was him. He had 87 yards against the best rushing defense in the league. So to me, that's pretty good for me. They're going to play Seattle this week. Terrible rush defense. The defense is clicking, though, which kind of worries me. But like I said, if there's anybody that's consistent, it's Nick Chubb. I can easily see him having a high 20, low 30 game before the fourth quarter. They like Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is consistent and will continue to be consistent. If he gets touchdowns, that just determines of how elite he is. If he doesn't get touchdowns, his fantasy points don't look that good. But he's been getting yards. The lowest amount of rushing yards he's got this season was 62 against the Jets. Jets run defense. He did get 3 touchdowns, 165 against a terrible Baltimore rushing defense. The Rams, I don't think they necessarily ran with them right. Tennessee, that game was just terrible. That second half was crazy. Nick Chubb, I honestly like at 7,300. I really do, against a terrible run defense. Fournette, no interest whatsoever here. I think Gardner Minshew is probably going to have a really good passing game. Saints have a really good rush defense. They put a lot of pressure on the quarterback and running back. Fournette is not somebody that I've ever been high on. He did have a 225-yard game and followed up by a 100-yard game. But those are good pass defenses teams, not run defense. This is the other way around. Saints have a bad pass defense, good run defense. So don't like Ingram here. And besides, I'd rather go $100 cheaper any day of the week and take Mark Ingram against Cincinnati than Fournette against New Orleans. If you look at Ingram's numbers, he's had 2 games where he's got under 10. 2 games where he's got over 20, and last week 12.9. Look at the teams he's faced. Probably Miami and KC are the only teams that I would consider terrible rush defense teams. He's going against the worst rush defense team. Hopefully we see some Lamar Jackson elite status, which opens up the door for Ingram to get red zone touchdowns. That's what makes him him. He gets those red zone touchdowns. If he gets yards, then so be it. But he's definitely going to get the ball in the red zone for him to score. If Andrews is out, guess what? He's really going to be the guy to go to in the red zone. 6,600, really good play. If you don't want to spend up above 6K, he's your guy. Or 7K, I'm sorry. He's your guy at 6,600 playing against the worst rush defense in football by far. Le'Veon Bell playing against Dallas's defense. Dallas allows a lot of rushing yards. They really do. Touchdowns is iffy, but we all know Le'Veon Bell is an elite running back, even if his stats don't show it. Week 1, I think, is probably one of the best options that we could see. And that's with Sam Darnold in. 17 carries, 60 yards, 6 receptions, 32 yards. And guess what? That's against Buffalo's really elite defense. Buffalo has probably a top 3 defense right now. And he still did good with Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold's going to be in. It's going to be a pretty good game. I think Darnold leads that offense, brings a lot of value to that offense. Like I said, Dallas gives up a lot of rushing yards. 101 yards a game to running backs, and they give up some touchdowns. Dallas' defense has been giving up a lot of points recently where they shouldn't. And Le'Veon Bell at 6,400 sounded like a pretty good game. No interest in Todd Gurley whatsoever playing against the best rush defense in the league, and we have yet to see Todd Gurley explode like he did last year. I mean, yet again, another person that's not got over 100 rushing yards in the season and hasn't even got close in their receiving game. So we see Todd Gurley return now the way Todd Gurley should be, especially going against San Francisco. Not liking it at all. I do have interest, though, in Derrick Henry playing Denver. Denver's rush defense, it's scary. Vic Fangio, like I said, always been a fan. He helped my Bears become one of the most elite defenses in the league. Just he knows how to play defense. He just doesn't have the pieces right now. Tennessee's offense is all over the place. Derrick Henry just has potential to explode and go crazy. He's got a touchdown in 4 out of the 5 weeks, and like I said, they're playing a pass defense. There's a lot of pass defenses this week with good options for running backs to go against a terrible rush defense on that same team. So Derrick Henry has interest for me against Denver. He really does. Chris Carson against Cleveland. I still don't know how to play Carson. I really don't. I've been low on him the last 2 weeks. And the last 2 weeks he's exploded. I was high on him week 2 and week 3. And he had terrible games. Broke 100 yards the last 2 weeks. Hasn't recorded a rushing touchdown except for week 1 against Cincinnati's defense. Really terrible defense there. This week they're playing Cleveland's defense. And in all honesty, you don't know what to really take from Cleveland's defense. They have a good defense. It's just what Cleveland's offense is going to do. If they're going to keep the defense on the field, then Chris Carson's probably going to have a good game because that defense is just going to be worn out. If that defense isn't on the field as much, you don't know what to expect from Chris Carson. He's just such an inconsistent running back, and if he fumbles, has a bad start, they can easily replace him. They have 2 running backs right behind him that have really good rush histories, so it's always a 50-50 with Chris Carson. Such a risk. Freeman, like I said, just terrible matchup there. Casey has 3 running backs that can pretty much go off. Don't know if they're going to. I honestly see this being a passing game, not a rushing game. Both defenses, I mean, you can run all over KC, don't get me wrong, and you can run all over Houston, but Deshaun Watson just had one of the best games in his career. Maybe not besides college, but in the NFL, I think that's his best game he's had. And KC's offense has looked terrible. So I can honestly see them bouncing back this week against Houston. So it could be a really good shootout. I definitely like it. Joe Mixon, 5,500, but he has an okay matchup playing Baltimore. It's just we haven't seen him go past 20 points this season. And without seeing somebody's ceiling expanded, it's been pretty cut. I can't really like him this week going against Baltimore. Like I said, it is a good matchup, but Cincinnati's offense is struggling, and they're going to have to pace because their defense is terrible. And I honestly see Baltimore's offense just taking advantage of it and doing whatever they want. Philip Lindsay playing against Tennessee. The running game is so much better than the passing game for Denver, but Tennessee has a really good defense regardless of how their offense plays. But Tennessee's rushing is just, or I'm sorry, not Tennessee, Denver's rushing is fairly good. You have 2 running backs that pretty much split it. And you can never tell what's going to happen if they're going to take routes and get receptions or if they're going to run. But they do a really good job of balancing Lindsay and Freeman. So Lindsay is the better play overall. Broke 100 yards last week against the Chargers. Then had a good week against Green Bay. Had a bad week against Jacksonville, Chicago, Oakland. It's really just it's a coin flip with how they're going to play. Like I said, their rush game is definitely better than the pass game, but Tennessee has a fairly good defense. So not one of my favorite plays there. Matt Breida, still part of that 3-headed dragon in San Francisco. But this time, instead of Wilson, they have Coleman back. So it's just hard to tell if who's going to explode when you have 3 running backs like that with the capability of any three getting the touchdown, any three getting the high workload. I think Burrito is still that guy, but they were really high on Coleman to start the season. So Rams, about average for defense, so anything really could happen there. San Francisco just has a good defense, and that keeps the offense on the field. So there's always potential for a lot of playing there. Chris Thompson, I'm just gonna go and say Chris Thompson, Adrian Peterson have preference, have a liking for either one. They're playing a terrible game where rushing is, in my opinion, probably going to be a bigger aspect than passing. It's Dwayne Haskins against Rosen, so it's going to be an interesting game there. This could be a really good game. I mean, two terrible teams playing, but it could be a competitive game to where they are close in score. But Chris Thompson and Peterson can really go off against this defense. Jordan Howard, I don't like against Minnesota. He's been playing really good, but Minnesota just has a good defense. And I just don't see Jordan Howard having a crazy 20-plus point game. Edmonds, I already said, part of the Arizona-Atlanta matchup. Royce Freeman goes hand in hand with Lindsey. It's just a risk. Carlos Hyde, not a terrible play against Kansas City. But like I said, it's probably just going to be a passing game. And then the last guy I'm going to go over, just to get the video done, and there's just not a lot of interest after him, is my boy Kenyon Drake. He's cracked 10 once, got close to 10 in two other games. But look at the defenses he's played. They played Baltimore when they were trailing. I'm pretty sure every game they're going to trail. New England, best defense in the league. Dallas, really good defense. Chargers, really good defense. They're playing a terrible defense this week, and they're probably not going to get blown out. They could. It has the possibility, depending on how Dwayne Haskins plays. But if they're not trailing that much, Kenyon Drake has potential to run the ball and run it well. A lot of potential here with a lot of cheap prices for a very good game. Like I said, I can honestly see Kenyon Drake going off. He gets targeted at running back. He gets the receptions. He gets a decent amount of yards. And this week, he has potential to run the ball. So he's not someone you totally want to avoid. But, I mean, if you need some money in cash for a running back because you want to go higher on wide receiver, quarterback, defense, whatever, definitely take a look at Kenyon Drake. I like his matchup. He's one of my sleepers this week. So definitely be on the lookout for him. 4,400, great price, great matchup, great potential here. Anyways, that is it, guys. That is the running backs for this week, not depending on injuries or anything like that. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Follow us on Twitter at AstroDFS, and we will see you in the next video.